Hello and welcome to the latest Red Robin HeritageCast, which is of course brought to you in partnership with Budget Tyres Auto Centre and 360 Chartered Accountants. Today's guest is a former New Zealand international who represented Melbourne Storm and the Gold Coast Titans before making his move to East Yorkshire to join the Robins in 2008, penning an initial 3-year deal. He went on to make 105 appearances for the club, scoring 41 tries in all competitions, and played a key role in one of the club's most successful periods in recent years, helping the club to a fourth-place finish in 2009. He also helped the club qualify for the playoffs in the following 2 years before moving on to join the Castleford Tigers at the end of the 2012 season. Whilst at the Tigers, our guests helped them reach a Challenge Cup final and Super League Grand Final and win a League Leaders' Shield before departing to join the Bradford Bulls. And at the ripe old age of 38, our guest is yet to throw in the towel, with him continuing to play for the 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐫 in what is his testimonial season. Our latest Red Robin HeritageCast guest is Jake Webster. How are you doing, Jake?
Awesome, bye. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. And thank you for joining us on the HeritageCast. Really popular with a lot of Rovers supporters, and it's great to get a bit of insight into former players' time at the club, because obviously as fans sometimes we don't get to see everything what goes on behind the scenes. So it's great that you've been able to join us. Pre-season training, how's that gone for you?
It's just another year, it's been exceptionally long this time. We still haven't even started our season, so we started mid-November. I think we had Challenge Cup about 5-6 weeks ago, which we were knocked out of, which we just put a fresh team out there, and then our first game was just on the weekend against Oldham, just as a trial match. So it's been a long time coming, but good to be back out in the field playing.
Yeah, and obviously it's not your first pre-season, is it? Does it ever get any easier?
No, they don't. They're not enjoyable. They're not fun. They're cold. They're wet. They're tiring. Just something you look forward to is your first game. So it's not too long away now. We've got a few weeks before I think Oldham, 27th of March.
Yeah, and just we'll talk about your time at 𝐀𝐜𝐭 at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
But how hard was it, obviously, to play a Challenge Cup game when you've probably not been doing that much training, or it must have been difficult for the players fitness-wise, and probably all your combinations and stuff like that. It must have been difficult for you.
Yeah. Well, we had a bit of a different start to our pre-season. We had a big, decent turnover of players, so we knew it was going to be long. So before Christmas, it was just teaching how we wanted to play. Ryhs, our coach, was just training all the boys up, just pretty much, on the notepads, on the TV screens, and then just doing a little bit of ball work. And the Challenge Cup fell right in the middle of our teaching phase, so we went out there with pretty much little to no experience that were on the field. Players that haven't played many games in the last 2 years due to COVID. We just went out there really just to blow some cobwebs away, and I think the results showed that. We lost to the better side, and but the boys were better for it. We got a lot of footage from it, and some knowledge to build the rest of our pre-season.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a shame that you've got to do it in a knockout competition where
definitely.
It's a shame it works out like that. But Jake, tell us about growing up over in Australia. Obviously born in Melbourne. Your early career, sort of how you got into rugby league, and how you then went on to sign for the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, well, I was born in Melbourne, as you said. Moved from Melbourne to Brisbane. Dad took me up there. I think 300 days of sun a year compared to Melbourne, where it was 4 seasons in 1 day, was more appealing to him. So he moved up there, and that's Brisbane's what football over here is what rugby is over there.
Yeah.
Every kid's running around with a rugby ball in their hand, or playing at lunchtime. So that's how I got into it, through Dad. Didn't start playing till the age of 8. I was a tiny kid, probably one of the smallest running around for my age. So Dad was pretty protective of me. But just growing up on the sidelines, watching him play, I always knew I wanted to play and be a professional rugby league player. But I didn't know what it took. But he pretty much guided me through my whole junior career. I played at Valley's Diehards, which was just across the river. It was just a convenience thing. But they were a great club. Good family club. Dad was very fond of them, so I played there till I was. See, this is how my memory's going. That's how old I am at the moment. That's how old I feel. Probably 16, where I was scouted by Anthony Griffin, who was a Melbourne Storm feeder club coach, which was the North Devils. I can't remember the year, 2000 maybe. I think it was 2000, my last year of school. And then just went down there for a few trial games and played in their under-19s. And then that year I was signed on a scholarship-based contract with Melbourne Storm. So that's how all that began. And just made my way through the ranks. Reserve grade, Queensland Cup. Mark Murray was the coach. Went down there for my first pre-season, I think 2000. I think it was 2000 or 2001. So that's when, as you said, that's how many pre-seasons I've done. That's it.
Yeah. And talk to us about feeder team level, because obviously we're used to it in this country, having the Super League, Championship, League One, and obviously we've just reintroduced reserve grade rugby again after COVID. What kind of standard would North Devils be like?
Well, their under-19s would definitely probably be reserve grade, and then you've got reserve grade, which is a step above. You've got Queensland Cup, which would be your championship. There's a lot of NRL players that get, farmed out. You usually have feeder teams that go in. So North Devils with Melbourne, so would be getting anywhere from 7 to 8 full-time players. 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe full-time players back every week to play with us. So that in a full-time NRL system. So it is a high-quality standard, and you'd probably say a few of the top teams it would give a couple of Super League teams run for their money back in that day. I'm not too sure about it now because I don't watch it, but I still think it's a pretty high standard for sure.
Yeah, and you made your debut for the Melbourne Storm first team in 2003. So what's that? Nearly 19 years ago, I think.
A long time.
Lining up. Alongside Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, Stephen Kearney, Dallas Johnson. Some real big hitters, and I think he was also the first player born in Melbourne to actually represent the Storm. So that's a bit of a must have been a proud moment for you, not only to be making your debut, but obviously the heritage side of being born in Melbourne and then to go and represent the Storm.
Well, it is a big thing. I've got a lot of family that's still in Melbourne. I still have fond memories of Melbourne, and I love Melbourne when I did live there. But to represent them also, just a start-up club, was a very proud moment as well. So it was quite a big occasion for me and my whole family.
Yeah, and you represented Melbourne between 2003 2006, 49 appearances, 28 tries. Pretty decent record for such a young kid coming into the game and getting to learn the ropes and all stuff like that. You started out at winger. Was that always your favourite position?
No, I was never a winger. I was always a centre. Dad always said, become a good centre because there's not many good ones out there. Steve Renoff, Ruben Wiki were my sort of people that I watched as I was coming up, and sort of tried to mould my game off. And then, first grade, I debuted at centre, and then I just wanted to be in the team. So wherever they put me, I'd play. So I played I don't even know, maybe another 10 or 15 games on the wing. That was the year after, though. I think the Rovers fans would know I was quite injury prone, quite young. But that was my first big injury after my first my debut. I had a serious injury which kept me out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about when you was at Rovers and some of the injuries that you did receive. Was that a feature of you being being a young player that you was picking up knocks regularly, or did you seem to just get big injuries regular and that kept you out for long periods of time?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't get any injuries when I was younger, but I didn't do any sort of extra training either. I just let my body grow and develop. And then all of a sudden, going full time, never touching a weight before I went full time, I think it just put that much stress on my body that quickly that, the ligaments, the joints couldn't handle it. I went from 79 kilos to 93 in 3.5, 4 months, and I was always going to have the potential to be a bigger person because of my dad, the genes. But, to put it on that quick and still be training that physically and playing such a physical game, I think it took a toll on my body. The amount of running we did in Melbourne was ridiculous. The amount of training we did was second to none. So, the body just being that young and not being trained, being seasoned to it, I think, took its toll, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big changes now about when you look at academy rugby and stuff like that, the sports science that's behind it is so much more advanced, isn't it? That, you've got kids now who are 14, 15, 16, 17, and they're getting individual training programs, and there's some real science behind it. Whereas I suppose even back then, you'd think technology, etc., would be quite advanced, but obviously, it was still basic in a lot of respects.
Yeah, definitely was. It's if you could walk, you could run. If you could run, you could train. If you could train, you could beat each other up. That's to the extent that when I first started. I think they brought something out just as I was leaving where they put something on your ear to see if you had enough sleep, and I don't know what it was. It tested your oxygen levels and then took a bit of blood, and that was the first bit I saw. And you could see it was heading in the right direction. But yeah, when we were coming through, if you were sore, you had a massage and got out there, or jumped in an ice bath. All those things still do apply, but there's just so much more in depth, physicality, testing, trainings, and all that sort of stuff that has definitely come into the game, which is, I think, hopefully give everyone a longevity in the game.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because I suppose it's difficult to put your finger on it, but do you think there's anything that happened or didn't happen in them early stages of your career that might have impacted on you in the later stages in terms of injuries and stuff like that?
Nothing that I could pinpoint, really. Just the physicality of the training. Melbourne is renowned for being pretty tough.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I do take away from that is that if I wasn't at Melbourne, I probably still wouldn't be playing. The mentality, the things that they've instilled into me as a person, the drive, the dedication, the professionalism. You have your ups and down moments. It's a bit of a roller coaster, as everyone says. But when I do get lost, I always go back to my days there, and what Craig and everyone, Mad was there as well, and Dean Lance was a big part of developing my football. That's what I do take away from those sorts of days.
Yeah, and in them early stages, was there any players that you looked up to, or you was trying to mould your career on, or was you just trying to make your own way in the game?
No, well, I said it before, Steve Renouf and Ruben Wiki, when I was a kid, I watched them and loved the way they played. They were my two favourite players. But when I went to Melbourne, I had some some fantastic players that were there as well. Matt Geyer, he was a massive influence on me. He pretty much he's done everything in the game. Represented his state, played grand finals, won grand finals, captained the club. He's a great family man. So he helped me out a lot as a young buck coming through. I was hot-headed and thought I was, all that. He grounded me, which was great. And also David Kidwell, I owe a lot to him. He was like a big brother to me when I was coming through. Showed me what respect was all about. How to earn your stripes, all those sorts of things that that I think it's been drummed out of the game with all the young boys now. But I appreciate everything that I learned at Melbourne from those boys for sure.
Yeah, in 2005 was going really well for the Storm. You played for New Zealand in the Tri-Nations. You played 8 times for New Zealand in total. Tri-Nation series was a little bit different one. It was played over in Australia and New Zealand as well as Great Britain. I mean, that must have been a fantastic experience for you, not only to pull on the All Blacks jersey, but to experience going across to Britain to play rugby league, and also not only to play but also defeat Australia. I think it was their first time in 27 years that they'd suffered a defeat in a test or competitive competition. So it must have been a really, really good experience for you.
Yeah, we'd finished our season, and I remember getting the phone call. I think I'd just been out on a big night with my brother in Melbourne, and I had a phone call at, I can't remember what time, some silly o'clock. It was David Kidwell ringing me, and I was sitting there, what does he want? And he said, "Oh, can you get to Sydney?" And I said, "Oh, well, what for?" Because I was in the New Zealand A side, so I knew I had to be there, but I didn't have to be there till the Friday or the Thursday. So we partners just come past. She tried to sneak past. So I was just celebrating the season with just some friends and that, and some family. And he said, "No, I need you here today." So I said, "All right then." So he didn't tell me what for. So I've got down there, and they've held training off. I've started training, and I didn't really get much. I just knew I had to be there. And then the Wednesday came, still training. Thursday came. He said, "Oh, just be ready to play." And then the pre-game training session, and said, "No, you're named in the squad." And I was like, "Oh my God," I just didn't know what to say. The first person I wanted to call was Dad, but I didn't know how to tell him, because I knew he'd be so proud. But I don't know, I was just buzzing. I still remember him telling me when Bluey told me. So once I told him, I was speaking to Dad, and Dad was in tears. Just couldn't wait. I think he was on the next plane straight to Sydney from Brisbane. All my family come. It was, one of the proudest moments, because to represent my father's nation, he's been pretty much the reason why, him and my stepmom definitely, the reason why I got to where I was.
Yeah, and also it's such a historic win for New Zealand as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not, you've got the personal side of you making, you playing, earning your caps, etc. But also, you're not only, looking at it from your point of view as a nation to be able to beat Australia and deliver that silverware for the first time.
Yeah,
must mean a lot to you, your father, but also the people in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, it was. It was a big. I think the whole tournament was, a bit of a big occasion for the whole, as you said, the whole nation, the whole rugby league community. We beat Australia in Australia. The first game, I think it was 38-28, which I don't think had been done for I don't know how long. And then, we in New Zealand, I think we lost by 2 points, which was, you just proving that it wasn't a fluke the first time. But then to come over to England, that was an experience that I didn't think I'd ever have so early on in my career for sure. But then, to get to the final, 24-0, it just shows that New Zealand was starting to, we're getting put on the map. And ever since then, I think New Zealand have definitely not been the laughing stock of international footy. So it's, it was great to be a part of something that as special and as historical as that.
Yeah, and we've got a World Cup at the end of this year. Obviously, it should have took place last year, but because of COVID, it didn't. And over the last few years, we've sort of seen the demise of international rugby league, haven't we? I just wonder, for you back then, how highly regarded did you hold international rugby league, and how much did it mean to you to pull on the All Blacks jersey?
It was. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. When you sign your NRL contract, you have to pledge your allegiance to Australia or New Zealand, and I just left that blank because I'm a young buck starting out. I've played less than, I think, 10, 15 games, and that was the last thing on my mind. I just wanted to cement a spot in first grade first, and then that 2005. By the misfortune of someone else, I got put in, and the spot was mine. I just had to keep it. And then the state of origin sort of come around, and Craig Bellamy said, "Look, you still haven't pledged your allegiance." And I'm sitting there going, "What's that for?" And he's said, "Look, State of Origin is coming around. You could be in the mix for that." And I said, "Well, I can't, can I? Because I'm going to pledge for New Zealand." And he goes, "Why is that?" And I said, "Well, because I was brought up with my father. He's a Maori, come over from New Zealand, I think age 16, 17, maybe a bit earlier. But he's an All Blacks through and through. So I've always wanted to represent the New Zealand Kiwis for sure." So he said, "Oh, look, right now you need to pledge your allegiance." So I've done so. And then when that came around, I've never, I had to pinch myself over and over and over and over to, in the sheds, putting the shirt on, looking at it, going, "What the, how's this come about?" It's just, I was speechless, and to be around, to play with my idol, Ruben Wiki, to be in the same dressing room as someone as, as good as Stacey Jones, Nigel Vungana, you can rattle the names off and they're like household names, and to be on the same field as that, it's just, surreal, especially for a young buck like me.
Yeah, and not only did you win the tournament, you finished joint top try scorer as well. It was 5 tries.
Yeah, should have been 6. They took one away from me, but he didn't even go to the. I don't think he could have gone to VRF back then, but yeah, it definitely wasn't forward. But yeah, should have been leading it. But no, it was, that was, wasn't high on me things, but wingers made to score tries. So as long as I was scoring, and to be up there was quite an honour as well.
Yeah, and then 2007 joined the Gold Coast Titans in, I think, was it their start out season?
Inaugural season. They just been promoted to, or not promoted, just been brought back. They Gold Coast have been in and out of the comp a few times. The Seagulls, and now the Gold Coast Titans were coming in, and I saw it as an opportunity to move closer to my family, who lived in Brisbane. Brought up with dad and my stepmom, had a younger brother and sister. I've been away for many, for a long period of time. So when they come and I was off contract, they came calling, and I was like, yeah, I was more than happy to give that a go for sure. I was looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah, and in that season you made 18 appearances, scored 4 tries. Tell us about how the departure from Gold Coast Titans came about, and then how the move to Hull Kingston Rovers surfaced.
I don't think we've got enough time to talk about. No, it was it was my own doing. I sort of got caught up in the glitz and glamour of the Gold Coast, the neon lights, the sun, the surf, the drink, the parties, everything that comes with what Gold Coast is. I was like, wow, this is me. And instead of concentrating on what I was there for, I was concentrating on everything else but what I was there for. So I was, I didn't have a great relationship with the coach. No fault of his, it was mine. So I, everything I'd done previously, leading up to me going to the Gold Coast, I'd pretty much ruined. I knew that, and I thought, that I had 3 years there, but I knew that it wasn't going to last. So at the time, I don't even know when abouts it was, but it was mid to maybe just after mid of the year. My agents come up to me and said, "Look, English Super League. What do you think of England when you were over there in 2005?" I said, "Yeah, I loved it." I said, "I do plan on going over there at some point." And he said, "Well, what about next year?" And, we sat down, had an in-depth discussion about why and all that, and I understood. And I thought this could be a good place for me, not to run away, but to go away, focus on what I needed to focus on. I was doing it alone, just to, pretty much give myself a wake-up call, so Hull KR, Justin Morgan, spoke to him on the phone, and I saw what he had planned, and I'd seen who he'd signed and all that sort of stuff, and that they definitely had, had ambition to be better than what they had been. So I thought this would be a good chance for me to go over there and come over here and find myself again, start enjoying my rugby, and also see the world. So yeah, at the end of 2007, we parted ways. It was, wasn't bad, wasn't in a bad way. I seen Surly, I think 2 years ago, and we're still on good terms. But yeah, then 2007 December, I landed in England.
Bit of a culture change.
Yeah, well, I rocked up in a pair of shorts and a very thin jumper with flip flops on. And who picked me up? Barney picked me up in a van that was windows was half shut, half not, because you couldn't wind it up. No heater or anything, and I'm sitting there going, "What have I done?" So driving up in the hull of where'd we get to? We got to the Humber Bridge, and I've gone, "Wow, look at this place," and I thought this is definitely a bit of a culture shock, and going to make me grow up and concentrate on what I needed to do. So it took me a little bit to really get into it. I missed home. I doubted everything for probably months. Probably 6-7 months. But the thing that did get me across the line was the people. The fans, not just the fans, the people of England. I knew no one, but it felt like I'd known half of them for 5-10 years. After having one conversation. So it was, that was the biggest thing that kept me here, was the people and the fans, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Bones as well, because we put out on social media last night. He's a bit of an unsung hero of the club. He's been around for a number of years, and you've just said about how important, not just people you play with, but people behind the scenes, the people in the city, etc. How important they are. When a new player stands for a club, and obviously you're making that huge move coming from the the other side of the world, what kind of things are put in place to help you settle in, or I suppose as it's maybe changed incredibly from then to now, but what was put in place to help you settle in?
Well, Bonesy was there, picked me up, dropped me off at the Village Hotel where I met Andrew Webster and Sarah, who was the team manager at the time, where they had a house for me, a car for me, but yeah, that was pretty much it back then. I think there was food in the house and the heating was on, which I was very appreciative of. But that was pretty much it. That's all I really needed. I wasn't too fussed. I was here to play football, play rugby league. The rest of it I'll figure out on the way. But I got a few numbers of a few of the boys. Ben Fisher, who was he was great on my first probably month of being here. Ryhs Lovegrove, he was great as well. Fellow Australians who come over and done it. So they were there definitely to help give a helping hand, and they were great friends.
Yeah, and I was going to say how much did that help? Because obviously there was a healthy contingent of sort of Aussies and New Zealanders at the club, weren't they? Obviously Justin Morgan, but then you had Daniel Fitzhenry, Mick Vella, Clint Newton, Ben Galea, and also Ben Galea, Clint Newton, Mick Vella, sort of senior pros as well, aren't they? How easy did they make it for you to feel at home?
Yeah, well, Mick Vella, he was the club captain. So he took everyone under the wing. He was a bit of a jokester. If you didn't know how to take him, you'd probably hate him. But as soon as he got in on his circle, he was in front of everyone. He wants to laugh, but when you needed a shoulder or an ear, he was always there, and he was very, very helpful to guide not just me, but everyone who come over, or anyone, even the English who were struggling with things. He was always there to lend a helping hand or his guidance or advice. So players like that, you can't replace. You need them around, just to keep people level-headed, to give the guidance, the experience that they've had in the game, and everything that they've done in life. it's second to none, really. So that's probably why the old people, us old fellas, are still valuable in the game.
Yeah, and he was coming to a club that had obviously secured its Super League safety the season before, and then you made your debut against the Leeds Rhinos, 20 points to 12 defeat, but you scored 2 tries. At the start of that season, what was the expectations that Justin had put on you as a playing group, and what was your expectations for yourself individually?
That's how many years? Mate, too many head knocks. I can't remember. They'd cemented their spot up. We'd done a great off-season recruitment charge, so we knew we had a decent enough chance to push for at least the finals. You're coming up against teams that have been at the finals for years. Leeds, you got your St Helens, your Wiggins. They're seasoned at this sort of stuff. The biggest challenge was, getting us prepared for what was to come. The weather, the fields, the change of how firm the ground was to how cold it'd get, to just the physicality. It wasn't as free flowing at the start of the year. The next minute it's like you're running around on 4G just because of how firm the ground is. So it was really just for us to adapt as quick as we could, put our best foot forward. But personally, I just had to find myself again. I had to discover that rugby league was what I wanted. If it wasn't, then I needed to walk away. But I knew I wasn't ready. So it was, I just needed to enjoy rugby league again. And 𝐂𝐻𝐾, the fans, the club, the playing squad, everyone that was involved in all that definitely made me fall back in love with the game. Yeah,
and I think for the supporters and then maybe for the players as well, there was 2 games that particularly stood out. There was the round 7 game against Hull FC when we beat them 11-10 at home. I think
I remember that. That was horrendous weather.
Yeah,
it was where ice was hitting us in the face. When they kicked off, we had our backs faced. I remember that.
Yeah, and I think James Webster to get that drop goal at the end,
which went over by about that much. It was the ugliest looking drop goal, but the most satisfying one.
Yeah, and then the other game was I think at the end of the season, the last game of the season when we beat them 36 points to 8. That was one that lives long in the memory of Hull Kingston Rovers supporters. What was your knowledge of the derby before you came over to the UK, and what was your experiences of playing in the derby while you was here?
My knowledge wasn't that high until I started speaking to someone. I can't remember who it was, but they sent me a link, and all it was a photo of the Hull Daily Mail, and there was a woman with a broken arm and a flip flop in her hand, and then someone else coming to kick someone on the ground, and I've gone, oh my, what is this is the end of the game, and I've gone, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I said, this is all an out war, and I said, nah, surely not. This is just a one-off. But then when I got here and experienced it, the 2 sides, I lived in 𝐂𝐻𝐸 for the start, and then I moved to Brough. But yeah, I was on the wrong side. Everyone kept telling me. But yeah, everyone during the year, everyone's fine. But the week or 2 leading up, the people who spoke to you on that side of where I live didn't speak to me. That's how much it means to them. But as soon as the game's over and done with, they'll probably hate you for a week if you win. If not, their first one's knocking on your door to give you a bit of stick. But the experience I've experienced nothing like it. I've played in Australia. I've played in front of 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people. But playing in front of Hull versus 𝐻𝐾, mate, without a doubt, there is nothing that I've experienced that is as crazy, as loud, as intimidating, but also inspiring as that. So everyone says the derbies happen all over the place, but I can't see a derby that's as big as that.
No, I agree, and I think it's that intensity where players sometimes either thrive or they wilt under it, don't they? Because it is such a unique game, and it's almost like every game we play is a cup final, and I wonder, I don't know if that always helps, because the build up, the anticipation around it is more than any other Super League fixture, that we play, and sometimes the fact it's built up just, I think sometimes it has a detrimental effect on the players and sometimes the result as well.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. I've seen people play the game over in their head 10 times, and it's Wednesday. The game's not till Saturday or Sunday. By the time the game comes, they're fatigued, mentally fatigued. And that is something that as a professional you need to be able to deal with your emotions. But as you said, it's hard. Especially the weeks coming up to it. You go shopping at Asda, and there's black and white shirts around. There's red and white shirts around. Everyone's looking at you funny. Everyone's going, "You better win." Said, "Oh, you've got no chance." Coming from both ends. So you've got to be able to switch off. You've got to be able to just focus on your job, what needs to be done. But it is quite hard. You've got half a city sitting on your shoulders, and you don't want to let them down. You want to give them bragging rights going into work on Monday, and it's just it's for some people the pressure is ridiculous, but for some they thrive on it, as you said.
Yeah, in 2008 finished 7th in Super League, but 2009 is where I think the team really came into its own, didn't it? We secured a 4th place finish in the league, semi-final game in the playoffs, and also a quarter-final appearance in the Challenge Cup. I mean, that must have been a pretty special season for you personally, because as supporters and for a club, we'd been waiting for so long for some kind of success, and I think that's where, as a club, we really started to make our mark in Super League. And obviously, you had a huge role in doing so, playing at centre. Did you feel comfortable now being back at centre? Was that your natural role? And you said you didn't like being out on the wing, but obviously the type of game that you played, sort of strong, powerful, running game, you must have been thriving on playing in these big games and being able to play at centre.
Yeah, I definitely. I've always I've always been a centre. Trained for it my whole life. Studied it pretty much every time I put a shirt on, I wanted to play in the centre. So to come over here and it be my spot, mine to lose, was was great. I enjoyed it, especially playing with some great ball distributors. We had Cookie, who could throw a ball from one side of the field to the other and hit you on the chest. When Dobbo was here, Dobbo could manipulate a defensive line just with his, can you say it, with his hairline? Or his chin, one or the other. No, only joking, Dobbo. Just with how good he was. So just happy to get some clean ball. You had Bengalia, who in the back row, who was a ball player. You had 𝐁𝐿𝐿, who was just presence was, bigger than anything, on the field and off the field. So we had a great bunch of guys to play. I had a great bunch of guys to play off. So I really enjoyed my time. Enjoyed learning from them. If you're not learning every day, then you shouldn't be playing. Every day is a school day, as anyone always says. So it was a great experience playing with some great players. And Morgs was, such a young coach. He was still with the times. He wasn't set in his ways yet. There was always room for development in his behalf, and he encouraged all that sort of stuff. So that was why I think I stayed at KR for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, 12 tries in that season, quite a healthy return from a centre as well. I wonder, what's your feelings as well on the wingers getting all the glory for scoring the tries, when often it's the centres who actually put them in them positions and make it happen for them?
Well, they keep going down the line there. You got your fullback will give you the position to put the winger in. I'm more than happy to let them take all the glory. It's what they're there. They're paid to finish. Well, they were back then. I think they're paid more to be an extra forward now, as well as finish and catch these high balls. But no, that's fine. Hang on, 2 seconds. My little fella's just woke up. I've just got to grab him.
Yes, all right.
Yeah. Hang on. Here he is.
Don't worry, mate. I've got two little ones myself, so I know how hard it is to do things like this and just even get a bit of time to away from them. So, but what's his name?
This is Luca.
Luca.
Yeah, he just turned 1 in February. But
Wow.
he's a monster. I think he's definitely going to be I don't know what, a wrestler, I think, or The Rock.
Yeah.
But yeah. But no, so where were we?
Yeah, so we're just saying about the wingers getting all the glory on the back of you.
Oh yeah.
No,
they're more than happy. Let them have it. I don't mind. You know, that's they get the 4 points. So it's 4 points for the team. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, and then I mean, in that season, we suffered heartbreak in the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup when we played Warrington at home. You know, they picked us by 1 point.
Oh yeah, we should never have lost that game either. Should never have lost that game. We were miles in front, I believe, and then that was heartbreaking, that game.
But some of the rugby league we was playing that season was phenomenal, and the supporters, it was, you know, such a joy to watch. And if you look at our sort of run to the end of the season, you know, starting off beating Hull FC 24 points to 18, we then win the next 4 games on the back of that. And then the last game of the season, we lose to Wakefield before losing to Leeds in the qualifying playoff, and then we lose to Wigan in the semi-final. As players, how did you feel about that end of season? And do you think you could have done more to get us, or do you think you'd almost put that much energy into that running, that Wigan game was probably just one too far for you?
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, we were disappointed. I remember that year very well. You know, we were so much promised, but we just come up short. Could have been what you're saying. Could have been just not the experience in such big games. You know, people not knowing how to handle tough, because when you get to the finals, it's knockout. It's tough, and sometimes that does get a bit too much. So it could be a few things. Yeah, it could be a few things that are that add up to it all. But it's just one of those things that you got to learn from. You got to, you know, grow and try not to make the same mistakes again. Yeah,
and I think that's really important, isn't it? That you need to have players who have been there and done that. But obviously, sometimes the only way you can get them players is by them actually winning and doing it, isn't it? And I think we saw that with Rovers last season, who were finishing the playoffs. Obviously, we did so well to beat Warrington, and then we went to Catalan. And although we had a depleted squad, I think just that big game know-how, that you know, how to do the little things right, how to alleviate some of the pressure. And if you haven't got them players around you, it's sometimes difficult, because I think you're a bit like lambs to the slaughter in a way, like rabbits in headlights if you've not prepared and you're not ready for it.
No, that's exactly right. You know, it is all those little things. It's those 50-50 passes in big games like that, especially when, you know, when it comes to finals over here, you're going back to the wet weather sort of footy, isn't it? It's not the so free flowing. You've got to change your game a little bit again. So it's, you know, it is a lot of different things that come into it around there. It's, you know, changing what you need to change, but also not losing your identity. Doing what, you know, all the hard work that you did all year is for a reason. You know, and sometimes when you come up short, it feels like that you let yourself down, and sometimes you've got to learn that to be able to take that next step. You know, because sometimes if you go straight to glory, when you know it's hard. When you do lose, you'll never get back. But you go the other way. Look at Penrith Panthers last year? You know, Melbourne, and then now they're on top of the world. Yeah. So sometimes that thing that they say you got to lose one to win one definitely comes on the cards for sure.
Yeah, in 2008, 2009, I mean, tremendous record. Played 53 games, scored 22 tries. 2010 though, injured against Catalans at the beginning of June, and then you missed the rest of the season. I mean, we've already spoke briefly about injuries and stuff, and when you look back at your time at Rovers, I suppose you probably share the same frustration as we do, that when you're not out on the field, you know, because of injury. Yeah. Especially when you've had such a good run and people can see the impact that you have on the team, that, you know, when you're not playing, it's such a big miss. But how does it affect you personally when you can see your teammates out there and you're not able to contribute to the performances?
Yeah, it is quite tough. You know, I don't know. It's a roller coaster of emotions. You know, you want to be out there helping your team. So you do everything you can off the field, but with no reward. You know, you're busting your butt, but you still know that you know that end date is still months and months away. So it's a roller coaster of emotions, up, down. People don't see it all. You know, like you'll be in there doing everything you can. You come home, you can't do a thing because you've got to go do it the next day again. You know, you give up your social life because, you know, you just don't want to be seen out and about just because you know that you don't know, but you feel like you're letting everyone down, but you can't do anything about it, you know. But then some days you're fantastic, you know, you feel better, your body feels good, and you feel like you contribute, but you're still only 1 or 2 steps closer to where you need to be. So it is quite tough. You know, that's the part that no one sees. You know, that's the part that, you know, the fans, the supporters, you know, don't understand. You know, injuries happen. They're part of the game, but they're not enjoyable for anyone, you know. You don't enjoy sitting on the sideline. You don't enjoy watching your teammates go out there and do what you know that you can do with them. So it is a very, very tough time for any player that gets injured.
Yeah, and then 2011, you make your return and you have another good run of games, 25 games that season, and it's another playoff appearance for Rovers, but ultimately we fall short, with Rovers suffering a heavy defeat at the end of the season, 56 points to 6 against the Catalan Dragons. And during that season, though, there was some really standout performances. You know, the 70 points to 14 victory over Wakefield. You know, you look at the Challenge Cup, although we suffered another big defeat. 54 points to 6 against St Helens. And what I think of the feature of that season is that, you know, we was able to score plenty of points, but we also shipped a lot. And you start to see, I don't know, maybe bad habits or stuff start to creep into the players. And you know, you started to get a feeling that maybe Justin Morgan, maybe his time was coming up a little bit, whether the players were responding to him. Talk to us about that season and talk to us about, you know, where you thought where it was going. Well, not necessarily wrong, because we were still finishing the playoffs, weren't we? But little things just didn't seem to be paying off for us that season.
Yeah, well, what year was that? 2011.
Yeah.
That's what's that? 5 years.
Yeah.
Since Maul. How long was Maul there? 5 years. That was his 5th year, was it? Yeah. Well, they say that 5 years is usually time you've either got to have a big clean out of players or clean out at the top. You know, because it starts to get stale. So that could be why. But also, I think it was we started to bring a few young people through too, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, and the experience boys, Newts was still there. I think we just signed Blake Green too, didn't we?
Yeah, Blake Green was there, yeah.
You know, so there was a little bit of a turnover of players coming through. I remember that year we had 2 great halves, so I think we concentrated a lot on attack, as you saw. Yeah. You know, with the scores that, you know, we had no trouble scoring points. But you know, I don't think Morgs can take the blame for it. I think it was an attitude thing with the players, obviously, because defense is an attitude. You know, it's an attitude thing. It's something that if you don't want to do it, doesn't matter how much you train for it, you just don't do it. So, you know, it's a bit, you know, I don't know. You could pinpoint a few different things, but you know, but that year just might have been a bit of a changing of the guard sort of thing. Needed a change up of players. Needed a turnover of a coach. Could be multiple different things. So I can't really put my finger on what it would have been.
Yeah, well, Justin Morgan obviously was shown the door, and then Craig Sandercock was the next man in. Did you see an instant change in styles and approach to coaching and the atmosphere around the club and things that Craig was trying to instill that maybe Justin wasn't?
Yes and no. He came over and he wanted to be a lot more professional, which you could feel straight away. Had meetings with everyone. Not saying Morgs didn't, but you could just feel it in the way he was approaching things. Maybe that was because I was just used to Morgs. I was, we were all friends by the end of it. Mates. You go have a coffee.
Do you think that was maybe part of Justin's not downfall, but maybe a bit of the problem is that he was so friendly with a lot of the players?
Yeah, no, yeah. Maybe it could have annoyed some players that he wasn't so close to, but we as a playing group, we respected him. He'd done a lot for the club, but maybe his knowledge had reached its capacity. Maybe he needed to go underneath someone else, though he could take that next level. Take his game to that next level, his coaching game. So and then that's what he's done. He's gone to Australia. He's been under some great coaches. So he might, you never know, he might be back one day.
Yeah,
back at Rovers coaching, and then take him to the next level. But and Sandy, like he was different again. He come over, he had totally different philosophy, so it was pretty much starting from scratch for everyone. He'd brought a few players with him. He's had some great ideas. Just whether it was what was right for the club or not was a different thing. The people that were going to buy into it bought into it straight away, but the ones that didn't never were and never did. They left quite quickly. So it was quite a different time for the club. I think. I don't know if it was a backward step or they were just. I don't really know, because I left a year after, so I wasn't around for long enough to see what was happening behind the scenes. But from what I heard, it was a bit up and down on the player side and the coaching staff. But it is, every day is a learning school day. So hopefully the club's learnt and the players learnt what they needed to off Sandy, and then they moved on, didn't they?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Scott Morrell mentioned when we had him on the HeritageCast was that he struggled with some of the English lads, and he couldn't quite get get on with them kind of thing. And then he sort of isolated them a bit. And James Green, he said the same thing. He they just struggled to develop a relationship with him.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was going to say that, but I didn't know if I could or not. But if they've already said it, yeah, I saw that definitely. He had his favourites.
Don't worry, Scott Morrell couldn't shut up.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I don't know where I could go with this. I didn't know. Well, let's go. I'll open up a can of worms here. No, he had his favourites. 𝐂𝐮𝐿, absolutely loved him. Brought him over. Had him at Newcastle. Loved the Aussie boys. Loved Mickey Payer. Loved Lincoln Withers and all that. You just knew who his favourites were, and I think that really put some some definitely sour faces on the English boys, which is definitely not what you want to do. You don't want to do stuff like that. You've come over here. You got to get everyone on side with you. So he's I think that was probably his biggest downfall. He just was too unapproachable for everyone, and just I don't know the way he handled things. Like he'd whisper. I don't know. Did they tell you about his whispering?
Yeah. And they said also about he'd tell you something one week, and then the next week he'd be completely opposite. And people just couldn't get their head around. Well, you're telling me this, then that, and it was a bit of a strange relationship. And also about was his office at the end of the corridor. So if he was ever walking past, some players didn't want to walk past in case he called them into the office.
And he'd start talking. I'd ask you how you are. How are you? How's the family? And he goes, anyway, but moving on to this. And before you even finish your question, like answering his question, he goes, yeah, but you missed a tackle the other week, like something like that, and that just you can't show people that you're interested and not be interested. You lose them straight away, But I think that was a big learning curve for Sandy, and for the club, And I think ever since then, they've gone upward. They've gone up, and in the aspect of the playing group anyway. They've got people in the right positions that respects the players. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's I think sometimes as well when you're following someone who's had such a long time at the club and someone who's enjoyed relative success, that whoever the next man in is always gonna struggle maybe.
Yeah,
It's
you've got to
difficult.
win over everyone. It's not just the people you bring in. It's probably harder. It's harder for you, definitely. To earn the trust, to change everything. And better way probably would have come in and buy in with the senior players, saying what's been happening here. Let's work with that sort of system. I think Leeds have got it when they were a force to be reckoned with. They had it locked down. It doesn't matter who they brought in. You had your 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐶𝐿𝐴s, your Peacocks, your Maguires, your Rob Burrows. They ran the team. Well, they didn't, but they did. Everyone knows they did. Coaching staff come in just to guide that and to oversee it all. So that they were successful for, I don't know, I've lost count how many years they were successful for. So so they had the right chemistry with all that. So I think Rovers are starting to get that now, for sure. I see they're my dark horses this year. I'm really looking forward to watching them play.
Yeah, I hope so, because at the moment they haven't been doing that great.
No, but they start off a bit shaky. Once the ground hits, ground firms up a bit. You got some really exciting players, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then your time at Rovers. I mean, obviously when you signed, you only signed a 3-year contract at first. You end up saying another 2 years on top of that. Your final season, though, you was restricted to 13 appearances. Did you expect to be at Rovers for so long, and did you expect to be playing rugby league in this country for so long?
No, I come for 2 years. I had it in my head. I'm here for 2 years. I'm going to fall in love with the game. Dad said just go for one and get back. I said no, I'm not doing that. I said I'll go for one. I'll fall in love, and then I'm going to go and experience the whole thing. Not the whole thing. The whole everything England's got to offer. Everything Super League's got to offer. I think not even a year into it, maybe 7 or 8 months into it, I had a phone call to see if I wanted to go back home. And I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. But I went home and thought about it, and I didn't even talk to anyone. I didn't say it to anyone else. So I sat there and thought about it for about probably 3 or 4 days. And then I went and spoke to Morgs and just said to him, this is what's happened. And he said, well, what are you doing? And I said, you're not going to try and talk me into anything? He goes, no, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't want to go. And then he asked me why, and I explained why, and he goes, well, there you go. And then that was it, really. 2 years turned into up till now, and that was the people, that was the country, that was how close everything was. I could see the world. It was great to live. It was easy to live. It was enjoyable. It was, all of the above. And, I stayed for my third, which I was never intending on doing, but it was just good to have the security. And then halfway through that, I said, no, I want to keep staying. And I suppose never even thought about going home since.
Yeah. And how did your departure from Rovers come about before you joined Castleford Tigers?
That was that 5-year thing. I think I was stale.
Right.
I think I needed a bit of, I needed a challenge. I needed a freshen up. That was Sandy said he'd still be happy to keep me. The club was still going to offer me a contract, but I just knew I just needed something different. So I put the feelers out there, and Cass were, they were close. They weren't successful, but I knew some people there. They said it was enjoyable, it was fun, and I still wanted to have fun playing footy, and I just knew I needed something different. So that was, that was my next step for sure.
Yeah, and obviously you was vindicated in your decision, weren't you, by Challenge Cup final, Super League Grand Final, League Leaders Shield. Great success for you there, and obviously you must look back fondly at your time at Castleford.
Yeah, it was. I think I played some of my best footy there. I had some of my I've got some of my greatest memories playing for Cass. I had my firstborn son while playing for Cass, as you said, Challenge Cup, played at Wembley, played at Old Trafford, played in League Leaders Shield winning team. That's just something that I always take with me. At the time, everyone thought it was a big mistake, but I could see what the vision was there. I could, the players that they were signing. When Daryl Powell came, that was just a whole new ball game then again. So at the end of the day, that was the right decision. That was something I'm really really happy that I did, and it's definitely going to be important memories in my career for sure.
Yeah. And then left there to join the Bradford Bulls, and then of course signed for Keighley, where you linked up with your old friend Ryhs Lovegrove. How good was it to be linking up with him again?
Yeah, it was quite weird. It was, because I don't know, he was one of the weirdest humans. He's still weird now. He knows that. But he was quite, one of the weirdest humans that I've ever met when I first came over here. He used to sit in there and, what are those little figurines that you'd paint and then roll a dice and do all that? And then he'd go out and win every fitness thing and then flog you at everything. And then the next day, just can't be bothered. And I just never met anyone like that before. Just so up and down. But, when he called me, I'm sitting there going, oh, here we go. I didn't answer. I seen him ring. I said, I'm not answering this. I didn't know he was coach. Didn't know anything what he was doing. I knew he was a trainer. So I said, there's something, he's wrong number dialed here. So I've texted him back because I was at training at the time at Bradford, and he just said, oh, look, give me a call when you can. So I texted him, hey, mate, just to train, I'll buzz you tonight. And then he's told me what he's doing, and I've got, here we go, what's going on here? So I've met up with him, and it was an interesting conversation, to say the least, because I'd never seen it. I'd never thought he'd be a coach ever. I think everyone at Rovers thought we'd see him on that. What's that? Finding a murderer. Yeah, you ask any of them, you get Scott back on. We thought he would be on that, saying he's killed someone. That's how weird he was. But no, he put the call out, and I met with the owners, and I'm at a different time. When I signed there, I was a different time in my career. I can't do what I used to be able to do, but I can, the experience, the guidance, the help of these young players that they're bringing through. I wanted to do different things and then just play footy. I don't want to just play anymore. I want to do some coaching. I want to do stuff behind the scenes. I'm doing player welfare stuff at the moment. I'm just finishing off the last few things I need. So when I do hang the boots up, I've got some fallbacks onto, but I still want to be in the game. So all those things were not promised, but weren't said that if I wanted it, that helped me get. And so I saw that as the best career move for me at the time. And it's still, and at this present time, it still is. I'm still playing. I'm doing all the things behind the scenes that are going to help me for after footy. And I'm, with an old mate who didn't leave me stranded in Princess Quay at 2:00 in the morning. So yeah, that's the first thing. He guided me to his house the first weekend I was there. Took me out, lost me in the middle of Hull. I'd never been out before, had no phone, no anything, and was driving around in a taxi. And I was at the bus station in the bus place, and he was at 2:00 in the morning. So that was my first memory of him. And I'm still with him today. So I'm happy. I'm happy to be.
And that must have been that must have been a culture shock for you.
What, go to Keighley?
No. I've been stuck in Hull City Centre at 2:00 in the morning.
In the morning, yeah. Wow, freezing. This is in December, first weekend of December as well. So it wasn't warm. So yeah. No,
and obviously still playing, but the RFL have granted you a testimonial season. What plans have you got for the season, and where might people be able to support you with your events?
Well, we're going to start it in April, April to April. I only got it granted a couple of months back, but it was, we're going to set it up right, play it right, do everything that we can, so I can, be as successful as I can with it. So I'm hoping to play my game against Cass. That's just in talks with them. which will be played at CAS, and all going well this year could be my farewell game, testimonial game, farewell game. Hang the boots up. You know, I'm close to 40 now. I've got these two. I've got two boys to run around with. I've got a missus who keeps me on my toes cleaning all the time. You know, so I'm getting a bit grey in the teeth. So I'm gonna have that, but that'll be later date. I've got a few events in CAS that'll be coming up. Some stuff in 𝐀𝐜𝐿. Nothing's penned in yet. It's all penciled in, but you know, I'll start up a website so everyone can see what's going on, and all your support will be greatly appreciated. You know, I've loved the fans up in Hull. I'm going to try and get a few events up there if possible, but you know, everything that will be happening will be posted within due course. But you know, I've got shirts that'll be coming out on the 9th, which I'm going to try and get up to Hull in the Hull shop. So there's going to be a few bit of merchandise going around, and you know, just going to have a fun year, hopefully.
Yeah, and we wish you all the best with that, because you know, like you said, you know, you're looking for a career after your playing days, and your testimonial definitely forms part of that, and you'll always be fondly remembered for your time at Hull Kingston Rovers, for playing your part in one of our most successful eras, especially in the Super League era. So it's been a real pleasure speaking to you, Jake, and we appreciate you giving up your time. I know it's not easy, especially having two little ones.
Yeah.
You know, time is precious, so I really appreciate it. But everyone listening, this has been Jake Webster. This is our latest Red Robin HeritageCast, which is, of course, brought to you by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Ties Auto Centre. But for now, Jake, take care and thank you.
Awesome. Say bye, Luca. Say bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.